Ladies and gentlemen, good day, and welcome to Music Broadcast Q2 FY 2021 earnings conference call. This conference call may contain forward-looking statements about the company, which are based on the beliefs, opinions, and expectations of the company as on date of this call. Statements are not the guarantees of future performance and involve risks and uncertainties that are difficult to predict. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star and then 0 on your touchtone telephone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Shailesh Gupta, Director, Music Broadcast Limited. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining the Q2 22 earnings calls of MBL. Joining me on the call is Mr. Ashit Kukin, CEO, MBL, Mr. Prashant Damodia, CFO, MBL, Mr. Jimmy Ojha from our IR team, and our investor relation partner, SGA. I hope you and your family are in the best of health and spirit in the festive season, while still being cautious and responsible when stepping out. While Q1 was characterized by the impact of the second wave, which halted our recovery moment achieving during second half of the previous year, this quarter, both the industry and the company have come back stronger, making most of the opportunities coming our way. This is further proven by the rebound in volumes, with the industry garnering 49% growth in volume. During this period, the overall growth in advertisers in the industry stood at 5%, whereas 3,600 clients advertised in Q2 22, of which approximately 1,900 clients advertisers use radio as a medium for the first time, which is very, very heartening. On this, Radio City has garnered the highest market share at 43% of total clients and 35% of advertisers using radio as a medium for the first time. Additionally, with the series of sporting events and product launches lined up, we expect the inventory utilization to improve further. The leadership position continued for yet another quarter, standing at 20% market share in the industry. Coming to sectorial ad spends, we observed a strong growth in some of the major sectors, which always have been real estate, which contributes 15% to the industry, grew by 150% year on year, while finance, which contributes 13%, grew by approximately 60% on year-on-year basis. A staggering growth was observed in pharma and education as well, with the two core sectors growing by 41% and 51% respectively and contributing 9% and 8% volume to the industry. However, the auto sector registered a degrowth of 19% owing to the semiconductor issues, which we feel coming this festive season, it should make it up really well. The digital integration continues to be our growth drivers with an ever-expanding reach and presence on social media and array of digital solutions that provides our customer end-to-end omni-channel solution for their products and services. Talking about the financial performance for the quarter, the revenue stood at rupees 42 crores, witnessing a rise of 105% quarter on quarter, whereas on year-on-year basis, it registered a growth of 40%. New revenue opportunities contributed roughly about 15.14 crores to the top line and are expected to grow steadily going forward. The cost-saving initiatives put in place in the previous years have yielded fruitful results, translating into healthier bottom line and enhancing the operational efficiency. This is reflected at the EBITDA level, which reports turnaround during the quarter with a profit of approximately 10 crores, translating an EBITDA margin of 22.5%. The similar trend has also visible at PAT level on half-yearly basis, as well as the company reported an EBITDA break-even, which is fantastic. On the collection front, the company has managed to collect rupees 35 crores during the quarter and total collection for the first half of over 70 crores. The collection from the government for the quarter stood at rupees 6.5 crores, whereas we collected around rupees 11 crores during H1. The balance sheet continues to be strong with ample reserves, which has always been the rationale of your company through conscious efforts aimed at pursuing a good liquidity position. Cash reserve stands at approximately rupees 250 crores as on 30th September as compared to 236 crores on 31st March 2021. Lastly, with regards to the bonus issues of the non-convertible, non-cumulative performance shares, SEBI has accorded its approval. We have filed the scheme with NCLT and are awaiting their approval. We will promptly keep you posted with the development in this regard. With this, I would request you, moderator, to open up the floor for question and answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Anyone who has a question may press star and 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Our first question is from the line of Jinesh Joshi from Prabhudas Lilladher. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. Sir, this is the first time in the last 4 to 5 quarters where we have seen our volume growth at 42% in the top 15 markets being lower than the industry growth of 49% odd. So is there anything worthwhile which is highlighting over here?
Yeah, to answer your question, if you remember in the last previous 3 quarters, the market was still not saturated from a volume perspective, because if we benchmark ourselves against the pre-COVID situation, 90% utilization level at an all market level average for us in the top 15 market is what we were operating. So when the markets were not really having that kind of volume, what we had done is we had kind of taken revenues with a little hit on the ERs from what conventionally, because if you've been watching your company, we've always been on the premium side of the pricing model as far as business is concerned. But the moment the volume started building up, as we know, while the volumes as we speak right now is at 90% of pre-COVID levels, but there is a ER or a yield drop, as we all know, in the situations that we are in. So the next corrective action that the organization believes which will take us forward is clearly correcting our ER. So when you do that, you have to take certain calls, which means avoiding some businesses which will affect you in the longer run, because it's a short-term gain versus long-term gain situation, honestly. So I think that little drop that we are looking at as against the industry is primarily because of this stance that the organization has taken. And historically, it is always seen that whenever you go in for a rate hike or a rate change, there is a slight deviation that you see in the volume consumption, because the volume players, some of the lower volume players will drop off.
Fair enough. And sir, how has been our volume performance in the high yield markets like Mumbai, Delhi and Bangalore? Because if I remember correctly, in the last quarter, there was some shortfall to the extent of 7 to 8% when we compare it with the pre-COVID levels. So are we back to those levels?
Not yet. In fact, there is a correction of 2 percentage points of contribution that has come from the large market levels, and that to our mind is the positive sign that we are looking at, because the moment this contribution goes far higher than what you rightly pointed out, the difference between pre-COVID levels and now, and these are high yield markets, you will see your company's revenues showing up correspondingly.
So one last question. I just wanted to know what is our inventory utilization in 2Q and revenue contribution from batch 1 station?
Inventory utilization in Q2. We are at an overall level of 54% inventory utilization level.
And revenue contribution of batch 1 stations?
Revenue contribution for basically phase 3 station is around 14% on quarter 2. Having said that, you recollect last call which we had, we said that now we should look all stations put together.
because they are already 3 to 4 years in the system. They are also getting into mature stage.
Okay, Jimmy. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we take our next question, we would like to remind participants to ask a question. You may enter star and one. Our next question is from the line of Siddhant Mehta from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Hi, good morning. So just wanted to get a couple of things. First of all, so I have asked this question earlier also that we used to do 20 crore mark revenue per month. We had an ambition of doing that. That was a normal quarter. We have touched 14 crores if you see 42 crores divided by 3 months. How do you see the festive season? Because there is a festive season which is coming. As you have mentioned, auto is still, you don't know because of this semiconductor, other chip shortage. But other sectors, how they are doing, and especially, do you think that we'll reach the 60 crore mark by 4Q FY22?
By Q?
By the last quarter, like the fourth quarter.
See, I mean, the aim is to be as close to that kind of numbers by the end of last quarter. We are positive that we'll be near about that, but at this point in time to give you definite numbers will be difficult. But yes, we are on a positive growth sign, and I think we should be, our aim is to chase that and we should be close to that number. But yes, Q3 will tell us what the Q outlook will be, honestly.
But still, any indications, like it's just 15 days, but you have 22 days have passed, you have Navratri which has gone by. So any update on how is the third quarter looking like? And
the third quarter will be definitely, we had a healthy third quarter last year as compared to the first two quarters.
But then that quarter, that quarter revenues you have already beaten this quarter because that was a lower.
So I was coming to that only. So that we have already beaten. So we believe that we should, we should show substantial growth even in this quarter as compared to the last quarter. And by the fourth quarter, I mean, if all thing goes well, hopefully the wish that you have told should be true, of going closer to the last quarter's full quarter's number.
Okay.
And one more thing to add on what Ashit has put in, if you look at quarter 1 to quarter 2, it says there's a 100% plus growth. In spite of the fact that your normal top 3 markets, which are just coming out of the COVID scenario, your malls in Bombay are still not 100% open for everyone.
Yeah.
In spite of that, if you see the numbers going 100%, I think the things look better off coming in quarters as Ashit put in.
No, there's nothing to compare, but you have already reached the fourth quarter FY21 level where there was some normalcy, because if you see January to March was a normal quarter because everything had opened up, so that's a good sign. And secondly, about costs, so you had saved around 52 crores costs in FY21 if I'm talking about total operating expenses. And currently now, if you compare to the first half of FY20, you have saved around 21 crores cost. If I see the first, so how is that 20 crores still can be saved in the second quarter, and we'll be able to save around 40 crores, or this is a higher number? Like what are your costs? Like can you give me some guidance on the cost?
You recollect we would have already told that whatever savings we did last year was around 50 CR or so.
Yeah.
Of which we said that 25% is a permanent savings is going to come in, and 25% is going to come back based on the revenues coming back.
Okay.
So if till H1 if we have done 20, I don't think we will be adding further 20 to the KT, but the addition to the cost saving. But overall the permanent saving would turn around 25 CR or so.
Okay. For FY22, and for FY23, that's 52 crores ka 25%. If you consider that FY23 everything will bounce back, that 25% of 52 crores savings will be kicking in. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And but my last question is regarding how have the print sector is a different thing. But as you have seen that fourth quarter, so your revenues have reached the fourth quarter of FY21 levels, because first quarter was a dip due to the second wave. How has it fared compared to print and TV as per your guidance? Do you think that radio is also coming back as print and radio are coming back, or you're still hoping for some more revival in radio?
See, revival for radio will be there as it will be there for print and television, because we all know that we are just coming out of the pandemic. If you look at the last second quarter, television has grown by about 15%, of course, albeit on a larger base, as against the 40% growth that we are talking about for radio. So yes, print again is showing growth. So I believe all sectors will see a growth in Q3 for sure, and if all things goes well, I think Q4 will also see a growth as compared to previous quarters.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to our participants, if you wish to ask a question, you may press star and 1. Next question is from the line of Gautami Desai from Chanakya Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. My question is that our peak performance was somewhere in 2019 in terms of revenue and I guess also in terms of profit. And we had started slowing down in terms of performance even before COVID, right? So for us, coming back to our peak performance would mean, going even behind COVID. Means, we did, as a company, we did something wrong even before COVID. So you have been always, in all the quarters telling us about the cost reduction and, number of new clients and the new business and all that, has been there every quarter. But could you tell us that, internally, when do you think that, music broadcast can come to its past glory? In how many years? And also, what are the actions that we are taking for that? Because when you keep talking about the cost savings, in a company which is so kind of, creative and people-oriented, and when there is so much wage inflation around, so we are worried whether, are you hiring the right kind of people? Are you trying to be creative enough? And, so basically my question is that when do you think we would come back to our past glories, and what are the actions that we are taking towards that?
Thanks, Gautami. I would respond to your question with the first first point that you made, which is saying that that our company was, much before COVID not doing well. But I think you should reflect that performance with the industry, because for the last so many quarters, if you see our performance versus the industry has always been better. Yeah. So that point that we were not doing well when the industry was doing well is factually incorrect, number one. Number two, yes, radio as a medium has also in the last so many quarters had to evolve itself, because as you know, as with the so changing mindset of the consumers, there are various aspects that comes from a media consumption perspective is concerned. To answer your second question of whether we are investing in attracting the right talent, you should be happy to know that your company has perhaps one of the lowest attritions in the media industry, largely because of the way we have managed ourselves, irrespective of the monetary gains that we are talking about. Because one thing that our company is known for is basically for the rewards and recognition, the people management, and not simply the great places to work has come in. So I think that those are positive signs that we look at. And as far as the answer to when will we get to the past glory, we are looking at it two ways. One is, of course, when we are talking about cost savings, we are looking at one from a perspective of the top line revenues, how are we going to operate. But largely, as an organization, as the management looks at it, is that how close can we come, or how faster we can come to the bottom line of the organization, whether it is PAT or EBITDA. So all the savings that we are talking about, irrespective whether we'll reach the top line faster, we are very clear that we have to reach the bottom line faster. Lastly, to answer your question, as the industry has evolved, we have also evolved ourselves both from a digital play perspective, because today when you look at the whole media game, you find that social media influencers play a large role in marketing. And we have been effectively in the last 2 quarters using our RJ influencers through our digital route along with radio to get advertisers come in, and that's where we believe the play is. And as we go forward, we believe, the 4th quarter of this year, hopefully, we should show you some numbers which will give you realistic understanding of how far we are from the actual pre-COVID number bottom lines that we are talking about.
Okay, so sir, would you have a wish list that say maybe in 2 years you come back to 2019 levels in terms of profit?
If you ask me, I would say 2 years is a long time. I would want to do it in 1.5 years.
Okay, all the best. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one. Our next question is from the line of Sarvesh Gupta from Maximal Capital. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. So just two questions. First of all, on the bonus debentures, I think you mentioned that it is currently under NCLT. So by when are we expected to finish the process?
This bonus debenture lying at NCLT is a long story now. I think we are also struggling a lot to, get these things expedite. The next date for NCLT is on 29th of this month. Hopefully the bench sits. The problem is the bench itself is not sitting. So the hearing is not going to take a lot of time because end of the day it's only for the minority shareholders. And we don't find any issues which are going to be picked up by NCLT or any observations which are going to reject the proposal as such. Let's hope that on 29th the board sits and at least the decision is taken. Thereafter, I think it takes further 30 to 45 days to put everything, to put some record date in place.
Understood. And secondly, while the other participant also alluded to this question about wage inflation and all that. So today, in case you would want to hire good quality talent, then of course, there's a price to pay for it. And how do you see that impacting, the kind of savings of 50 crore annually that we are talking about? How do you see that sort of getting impacted by the inflation in your cost structure?
No, to answer your question, that hiring the right talent is if you believe that you don't have the right talent right now. Because if you look at the talent that we have got, a lot of our core teams are people who have been in the organization for a long time. So they are not talent which we have attracted recently. And we believe that over the years, this talent has delivered us. So as and when if there is a requirement for a specific talent, I don't think we are going to cut corners. But to answer your question, I think at the moment we believe we are one of the best talents in the radio industry. And that's the reason why you're seeing our performances over the quarters will go on improving. And honestly, I'm not worried about that adding on to the cost because we are not seeing any level of discontent amongst those set of people who purely are the ones who are contributing to the organization.
Okay. And now that, because of COVID, we've seen that the market shares that you have held on have been stable. So, but since industry has gone through a very bad phase, so do you see any inorganic opportunities or opportunities where your market share can be improved because some other players are folding up in this sort of a tough environment that we have been through? So we of course had a much stronger balance sheet, but any comments on the industry competitive structure? Is it going to be favorable for you? Which is because when I see the market shares, they seem to be sort of on the same trend. So it looks like your competitive positioning hasn't improved because of COVID as such.
No, we have always been at the highest share. So once you reach the highest share amongst all the players, any improvement from that on is going to be a tough ask, because everybody will have their share of the pound of business that they would want to have. So any large drop from that would be a concern, but improvement obviously will be at two costs. One is of course looking at it from a play that you want to do. Do you want to show large volume play or you really are playing the value game? So I think at this levels of shares, we believe we are in the sweet spot of the right share of volume and the right share of revenues. Is our belief, and that's the way we will be operating.
No, that's fine, sir. That's on the operating side, but I mean there are two other ways of increasing share. One is inorganic, which we have tried and which we have seen how difficult that process is to get approvals and all. So obviously, I don't think you will go down that path again. And the other path is, where some major player folds up because of the challenges that they have seen. So on the second side, are you seeing anybody folding up or anything of that sort because of which your market share can improve?
See, that I cannot comment, but the moment if any such instance happens, clearly as leaders we believe that we will be getting a large portion of that share or a substantial portion of that share because that market will be then open. So, that's our speculations, but yes, if there is such a situation, we are up for it and we are closely keeping an eye on likely players who would be possibly folding up if at all, and we are closely keeping a tab of the customers that they have to ensure that the moment as and when that happens, your team will be there to kind of get those businesses over our side of the business.
Okay, that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take our next question from the line of Manjeet Buaria from Solidarity Investments. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning and thanks for taking my question. Sir, I wanted to understand, radio as an industry, if one looks from an advertiser perspective, pre-2016 and post-2016, and where I'm coming on 2016 is that post that the data costs in India really dropped significantly for internet usage. So, how has the advertiser perspective changed? When they think about radio as a, part of the strategic advertising, planning. I'd love to get some thoughts over there from your perspective.
Specifically, when you look at radio, I think the radio advantage advertisers see is the local reach that we are giving. So while they will have large-scale carpet bombing through television, if they're a large advertiser, or even large-scale print editions, if somebody is doing that, they believe that radio has a different kind of a feel from a local perspective, and that gives them the advantage of localizing their brand's content to the consumer that they are reaching out to, number one. Number two, historically, this whole multimedia concept is something which is largely worked, and global researchers have always proved that when you use two mediums in conjunction, your probability to influence your customers are far more. And radio that way works happily, whether it is radio and out of home or radio and print and radio and television. Unfortunately, in India, there is not much research to show that, but if one goes by the gut feel, there is a clear understanding that advertisers see that. And largely today, when you look at all the top category advertisers who are advertising, if we look at television as the big medium and now digital, you will see that all of them are also simultaneously testing radio. The only challenge is that, the investments in radio is not as much as they do in the other mediums, and that's where the radio companies are kind of doing their efforts. And, today what we are doing is to kind of make that mix more interesting. This whole digital play that radio companies have, and especially we have got with the RJ influencers playing a large role, we are seeing that having a lot more traction with their advertisers. So a lot of advertisers now are taking our radio along with our digital and RJ influencer bit, which is showing larger successes for us. And as we go forward, we believe this will have a large role to play in our success.
Right. Sir, one follow-up now from a consumer perspective, just anecdotally what one observes is, over last few years as data costs have come down, people have lot more audio-visual options, with smartphones becoming cheaper. So just from a listenership perspective, is it fair to assume, let's say 5, 6, 7 years back, the amount of people who tuned into radio would now be substantially lower, or even if the number of people is same, the hours listened to on radio would have gone down meaningfully because there are better alternates or other alternates, if not better alternates. So
that is the conventional belief, but all research, for example, the AROI did a research post-COVID. So the two interesting facts came out. One is, of course, listening time has increased in radio, and secondly, a number of listeners have increased in radio, and this was a top 6 market study that they do. I think this all comes from the perspective, you have to look at this whole evolvement of the consumer in this today's media consumption. And that happened from the fact, if you would have looked at 10 years back, an average media consumption of a consumer would have been about 3 hours. You would be surprised to know that 3 hours has gone as high as 8 to 9 hours now, and largely because of the work from home and availability of time as per the consumers. Earlier, if you have stepped out from your house to go to your office and come back, your 8 to 10 hours is lost. Today, I think with work from home, the entire perspective has changed. So mediums like radio have thrived because, what people always forget is that radio is always listened at home. 80% of radio listenership, though, traditionally people in metro cities believe that radio is listened in the car, 80% of radio's listenership happens at home. And that is the advantage that the medium has got. And hence, this has increased the kind of consumption both at the consumer listenership level and even the reach level.
Right. Sir, one final question. Today, are there mechanisms or, methods by which advertisers can get a sense on the return on investment they do on radio advertising, or it's still not possible?
See, I think astute marketers obviously have their own ways of finding out how any kind of investment on a medium works, because they have, suppose they have their sales team and they have their distributors and so on and so forth. Some of large media spenders like HUL and all even conduct their own surveys, and I'm sure there is some way for them to find out how the medium works for them. Also, just to now that one point has come to my mind on the perspective of advertisers and radio, I think one thing which people need to know is that today's consumer is a hybrid consumer. He's not a linear consumer who is only consuming one medium per se. Today, if you see, even if you put yourself personally, you may be doing little bit of an OTT or a digital OTT, you'll be listening to some radio station or streaming platform, or you would also be listening to or watching television with news or any. So today's consumer is an hybrid consumer, and it's not linear. How one would have seen it about 2 decades or 2.5 decades back, because the choices were limited. So the multiple choices that people have got has made the consumer hybrid, which means interesting to the interest of the consumer is also consumed as and when he wants. And radio gives you that anytime advantage of listening to radio because of the accessibility that radio has. So that's obviously for the previous point that you raised. But having said that, I think the medium has its own presence, and that's the reason why large investing clients like Levers and Dabur and all the, and I'm taking FMCG because they are large investors, but you have across category investors who are using radio effectively.
Sir, can I ask one more question, please?
Please, yes, go ahead.
Sir, if I exclude, post March 20, when the COVID onset happened, if we take the decade before that, for, a radio station like a Mumbai or a Delhi which has been there continuously, right? How has the pricing evolved in terms of, yields? Has it gone up structurally, or, there was a time where it hit a snag with, different options like digital, OTT, etc. coming up? Where people had divided attentions again versus just TV and radio probably up to 2014-15.
I think the prices, in any pricing model, the prices is a demand and supply ratio. So when you're talking about a decade or 2 decades of 1.5 decades back, the number of players in a particular market was limited. Obviously, the pricing was demanded, gone as per that demand and the kind of availability of supply that is there. The moment there is an overhang of supply, somewhere the effects of pricing will be there, and that is not just for any radio as a medium, but across categories it will be the same. So I think from that perspective, of course, none of the companies would be enjoying the kind of yield that they were getting previously. But having said that, I think the yields currently that we are aiming to get to is something which will still make us profitable.
Right, sir. This was very helpful, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Himanshu Upadhyay from PGIM Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good morning, and congrats on good set of results. I had a question on this slide number 10 of our presentation, okay, where we show the leadership in the listenership data, okay.
Yeah,
we see the 2 cities, Bombay and Delhi, okay. It seems that we have lost some market share in listenership in last 1.5 years, okay. From Delhi, it is more interesting that from number 2nd we are nearly number 5th, okay. And Bombay also, the trend line is we are number 5 now. And it seems very sharp fall has been there. Okay. Can you elaborate on that and what is happening in these two markets?
Yeah. So, in the absence of any investments on hardcore research, a lot what we go by is the data that is there in front of us in various formats that we get through our, on-air activities and so on and so forth. What you've observed is right, that is primarily because there has been a slight shift in the audience segments when it comes to the two driver shows that we are talking about, especially the morning and the night shows that we have. And if you know our night show, which is our again a show that we always been proud of, the Kal Bhi Aaj Bhi, there has been a slight shift in audience, and that shift in audience perhaps in the absence of data couldn't be captured, but we have now realized that we need to kind of get closer to the segment which is listening to that show, because if you look earlier we were playing the old 70s which is the retro show that we're talking about, but the generation now, even 80s becomes retro today as you look at it, So that's the minor change which possibly was lost out in the gamut of so many things that is there, and that I would say is an observation that you've rightly pointed out, but all course corrections that is required in getting the segment from the leadership perspective concerned is already in place, and hopefully we should be able to show you better results in the coming quarters.
Okay, and one small thing. So once the data what you have is also being seen by the advertisers, okay, at various places, okay, they would be also using some third-party data, okay. So how soon or when does he start getting worried on the leadership positioning, okay? And would it affect the rates in future if this trend does not start improving or on the upside?
See, the challenge with radio listenership is, it is limited to only a few markets as against the large presence that radio has, one. B, historically, as all researchers, including television, there is always a pinch of salt that the advertiser takes any data. So for us, even in the past, whenever there has been a change in our positioning, which is on the lower side of what we were, apart from being the leaders, that has not substantially changed our market rates, because advertisers see the value in totality in terms of the way integration is done for the brand, the way the execution is done of the brand on air, and so on and so forth. And largely they go, like I said, have their own way of having the pulse of what station works for them. I have seen certain advertisers will not even take the number one station on record, because they believe that we doing a better job in that market even if we are not number one. So I guess it's something which is case to case, but past has not shown us any indications of drastic rate reductions in line with any change in listenership data, because for two reasons. The listenership data is always 3 to 4 weeks old, and they keep changing from time to time. So it's a larger perception that they have, and of course their own experience of the brand's integration that they have seen in the past with a particular radio station, which makes them come over and over again.
Okay, and two more things. One is we used to do activations, events, for, even for new product introductions, okay, for the customers, okay. And with now economy opening up and events being more happening, okay, what we are hearing, and even new product introduction will start happening over a period of time for even FMCG and many of the products. Do you think that out of home category or out of the studio business what we were doing will start gathering pace? Are you seeing some pace? And how important a business can that be for the profitability of the business and brand building of the business for us?
So any opportunity which allows a larger involvement with the client and investment of the client obviously will improve the bottom line, A. B, currently in the absence of that, what we are doing is we are using the digital route for unboxing of clients and so on and so forth. So we are already doing some form of unboxing or launching of products and so on and so forth. But you're right there that as soon as the on-ground activation, the experiential part starts, and if all COVID norms are taken care of and we don't see any other challengers, you will see your team also doing the same simultaneously, because we have done that in the past. And like I said, too difficult to predict, but a quarter, 2 quarters from now, you will find that being a part of our play when it comes to doing on-ground events. And yes, on-ground events usually are EBITDA boosters, because we only work with a certain level of margins. Otherwise, we don't do on-ground events. So I think you're right there in identifying that will be another opportunity which will add on to our bottom line.
But are we seeing any traction on that business now?
We are doing small level of engagement at malls, or maybe at a particular retail outlet level. Those are too early for me to give you any indication on those minor things that is happening right now. I think when it happens large scale, I'll be able to give you a positive answer that yeah, it's happening. Some of them are really bringing it up, but we are doing a lot of those online events as of now. But we are not really, because right now we believe we should go with the protocols that is given of not really engaging largely and on ground. But because we are doing online events, in the absence of that, the moment on ground starts, we will transit it to the on ground part of the activity and get going with it.
One last thing, on the digital initiatives what you are taking now, putting the brands on digital platforms, what is the way you can differentiate yourself versus others? Because this job is being today by a lot of media companies, okay? And how do you really differentiate in that business, okay? And how scalable is that business for you? Yeah, thanks.
The biggest difference here is that, if you look at social media influencers, I think the biggest challenge digital has is about the trust factor. N number of studies have shown that while you see a lot of things happening, and we've all heard about fake news and so on and so forth, I think digital influencers getting the trust and credibility is the biggest problem. That is where a radio station like us differentiates, because RJs are seen to be trusty because the medium itself is trustful. In any amount of study, along with print, radio comes as the top 2 mediums which consumers trust, and that gets transited when a RJ really goes and talks about a product. So that, of course, is an important scheme of things, and for us, using RJs as influencers to kind of do brand communication along with radio is really bringing in a new opportunity. And like I say, I'm confident that as we go forward, you'll see more and more of that happening.
Okay, thank you from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a next question from the line of Manoj Dua from Geometric. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my question. In earlier call also, minority investors have applauded management for their in this debentures bonus share only to the minority. And we as investors quote this to other company also. I want to applaud this again. So, and I also want to applaud the management for answering every question very carefully and patiently and with very transparency. My question is now little bit ahead of time. Now, after this preference debenture, which will be given after this NCLT, now as we say, we are again go back to pre-COVID level, and we have again good cash generation. Are we having a capex plan in this, or we will still, after giving this generous preference debenture bonus, still we will be giving a good part of money back to the shareholder? Thank you.
Sir, if you know, we are part of Jagran Group, and Jagran is always known to reward their shareholders to in whatever way they can. I think we are going to follow our parent footstep and will be doing along what our parent has done till now.
Okay, thank you and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take our next question from the line of Anish Jobalia from Banyan Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on this platform. So congratulations for this improved revenue performance and keeping our costs under such strict controls in this tough times. So I just wanted to take this conversation a bit on the yield recovery. So could you help to understand how has been the recovery in the yields in Q2, and what is the current gap with our earlier pre-COVID levels?
Yeah. So, there has been a minor yield growth, approximately 4% over the previous quarter, and we will be approximately at 55 to 60% of the yield levels that we are talking about. So, one way to look at it is the opportunity is still 40% more than what we are operating at, and that is largely because of the way the industry is poised. So yes, a long way to go from a yield recovery as against the pre-COVID levels, but a marginal improvement has started, and I think Q3 and Q4 should give us more reasons to feel that the recovery will be faster as we go forward.
And how do you expect this gap to close? I mean, do you have any timeline given your understanding of the advertisers' mindset, etc.? So how do you see the timeline? Say, when can we recover the remaining 40% of the yields? I mean, given the gap which is huge right now. So what's your current assessment of the situation?
It's difficult to predict because a lot of this will also be dependent on the way the competition behaves. Because right now we have certain players where it's a question of survival, and they would kind of take anything that comes their way. Now that largely affects a certain set of advertisers who have limited money and who would want to go with them because they believe that let me just be present on the medium because I can't afford anything else. No, that's a catch-22 situation for us. But I would want to believe as we gave a window period of 1.5 to 2 years, as I said, if the recovery has to happen from what we said, I think that should be the game plan for us, that if we can able to get within that 1.5 years to that level of yields, and with the cost efficiencies, I think our margins will be much better.
Right. So just in terms of the volumes, can it be said that we are even higher than the pre-COVID levels today, and then we have a yield gap of 40%? And going forward, the recovery in our revenues will be completely led by the yield improvement over the next 1.5 years.
Largely by yield improvement, but also if you see the second and third layer markets are still at a 60-65% inventory utilization level because they are just getting into the maturity stage. Normally, depending on the way the market is and the potential from an advertiser attractiveness, it takes about 5 to 6 to 7 years to reach 80-90% kind of inventory utilization level. And I am talking about the industry. Our positioning has always been better. So there is a room from a volume perspective in those set of markets. Yes, the large markets that we are talking about, it has to be largely done through the yield route because you're right there, it's almost at a 90-95% in some markets of inventory utilization already.
And just to, my one question was, in my earlier question was, are our volume today higher than the pre-COVID levels?
Some markets, yes, it is higher than the pre-COVID levels, but the large markets where we believe there is a room is still lower than the pre-COVID levels.
Okay, fantastic. All the way best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a next question from the line of Jatin K from Alpha Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Thanks for taking my question and congrats for a good set of numbers. Sir, my first question would be on this in this quarterly result, there is jump in other expenses. So it has gone from 16 crore, 17 crore or to 20 crore. So anything would you like to comment on this?
Yeah, the expenses have increased because one, the royalty which has increased by 1 crore or so, and rest is cost to do business which has increased.
Sure. So we expect this number to grow in line with revenues.
Correct.
Yes.
Sure, sir. And sir, in terms of total revenues, we're guiding that 3Q and 4Q are expected to be better. So are we seeing a month-on-month improvement if we look at the last quarter as well as this current quarter? So are we seeing any month-on-month improvement which is helping us guiding this improvement?
Yes, it is. And we are seeing that improvement happening.
Sure, sir. And sir, last question would be on the preference debentures. Do we plan to list them on the stock exchanges or they will stay unlisted?
Yeah, they would be listed in stock exchange.
They would be listed. Yeah. Sure. That's it from my side, sir. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a next question from the line of Laksh, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Good morning. We, at the current level of revenue, including other income, say 47 crore, our total income is 47 crore. We reached break even at net profit level. Being a fixed, cost business, what is the operating leverage we see for the H2 of FY22?
In fact, sir, to answer you, I have already answered your question. Basically, whatever revenue further on from here is going to go and add up to the bottom line.
Yes. Okay. And there was an increase in other income. What was that?
Largely our mutual fund deposits which we have and the corporate FDs.
So it's one time only?
No, it's not one time. It's been there. So this income is going to continue.
In the H2 of FY22, are we planning to beat the industry?
Sorry, I didn't get you. FY?
In the H2 of the FY22, will we be able to beat the industry?
So if you're talking about volumes, I'm not so sure. Value, I'm sure that we will be. I mean, we can get to know it from whatever the listed companies will show results. But volumes, like I said, I would want to play the yield game. So while we may not see drastic reduction in our volumes, but I would not really be worried if I'm still at a 20 and not a 21 percentage of market share, because my aim is to increase the yield.
That's it from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a next question from the line of Gautami Desai from Chanakya Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the chance again. So coming back to the same question that you said that, there is a possibility of soon coming back to 2019 levels. Just to make it simple, can you tell me that, compared to 2019, at what percentage discount are we, both in terms of capacity utilization as well as in terms of yield?
See, like I said, the yield inventory utilization is at a 85 to 90% levels already. And in fact, the smaller markets are at a 100% capacity utilization level as compared to the 1920. The yield, I have already said that we are operating at around 55 to 60% of the operating rate. And that's the play room that we believe is the room that is there for us to grow from a revenue perspective.
So I'm talking about FY19, okay? I'm not talking about FY20.
You're talking about FY19. So FY19...
That was our peak, right? Yeah.
So between 19 to 20, there has been a correction in yield because of the multiple players, the multiple frequencies markets getting matured.
Right.
And secondly, the larger impact was, of course, the government revenues, which drastically came down in 1920, because we had a large component of political revenues which was there, which didn't come out. Central government, which is the largest contributing category, just didn't do any activity in the last 2 years.
Right. So just kind of clarifying, you said that your wish list would be in 1.5 years back, come back to FY20 or FY19 levels?
As of now, we are talking about 1920 levels, because 19 levels is still something which will be, once we cross the 20 levels, will go,
Gautami, just on the revenue front, when we are talking about that reaching at 19 number or 20 number, let me drive your attention to the bottom line. In spite of we reaching FY19 number 20, because of our cost saving and because of our levers, our bottom line will be much better off and much quicker to recover, as we have seen from Q1 to Q2. Q1 we had a 10 crore loss, while Q2 wiped off everything, and at H1 level we are at positive. So
yeah, but we have a very long way to go. So I'm asking you this. Yeah.
But the bottom line recovery would be much faster as compared to a top line recovery.
Correct.
Okay. So say to come back to FY19 profit levels, so the difference between, I'm just kind of, going over again so that I'm more clear, that we are at 85 to 90% discount to what was the capacity utilization then, and we are at a 50 to 60% yield of what, we were then. Am I right?
No, 85 to 90% discount. We are at a 10% of discount of, when you say discount, I would say lesser utilization level.
I get it. So we are at 85 to 90% of what we used to be in our best of days, and we are at 50 to 60% in terms of the yield.
Correct.
Okay, and now in this particular, you said that, you came down in terms of volumes as compared to the industry, because, you want to have some price hikes and all that. So what has been your experience in the past few days after indicating a price rise? And how long you think that, we'll come back to that 100% of our yield?
See, 100% yield will be, like I told you, I've answered this question for the previous participant also. We'll have two factors to it. One is the way the competition is going to take their own strategy in terms of yield, because ultimately you're playing in a multiple market scenario, multiple player scenario. And as an industry, we are trying to see that how soon can we get to that level. But like I said, it is going to be in media. I've been in media for so long.
Honestly, the competitor has been telling us that we are spoiling the rates. So let's keep that aside. Maybe let's assume that they follow us, and if we continue with our rates, then what is your view?
I would, with all due respect, Gautami, I don't know when we say competition is saying we are spoiling the rates. I don't know how to answer that question, because those are anybody can make any claims. But if you go out in the market and if you test the market and ask advertisers or even agencies, you'll have a different story to hear. So I would urge you and request you that if you could be kind enough to have neutral parties talk about what Radio City is operating, perhaps we'll have a better view. Having said that, I will accept what you're saying, and I'm saying that we are working hard towards, improving yield, and that you will see over the quarters to come, because it's not easy. The point I'm making is not just that I think about it and it will happen, because each time when I go to kind of push the rates, if I have a competitor coming and saying that I'm willing to work at the previous rate or even lesser, it's going to be as equally challenging, no, Gautami? So that's the challenge that I have to live with, and that's the historic challenge that we have seen in media over the years, and that's the biggest challenge. That's why people who are seasoned professionals, they'll say 8 to 10% increase in media takes a lot. It takes a lot for somebody to move that kind of yield percentage for a media company across mediums. So that is the challenge we will be facing too, and that's the only way I can address this question, because I cannot talk about what others are saying, because I think we always pride ourselves being premium players from a pricing perspective, and we believe that it is, and fortunately our advertisers and clients also believe that they are willing to pay that premium to us.
Okay, fine. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. As there are no further questions from the participants, I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Sailesh Gupta for closing comments.
Thank you everyone for joining us in this earnings call. Having turned a new leaf and returning to profitability, we are confident that the company will continue this growth momentum and further solidify its leadership position. The presentation and earnings release are already uploaded on the website and stock exchanges. Should you have any further questions, please do feel free to get in touch with any of us or with SGA. I wish you a very best of luck, and more importantly, stay safe and take care. I would also like to extend greetings from Radio City family for the upcoming festive season to all of you. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Music Broadcast Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.